Okay, with the edit view controller, we're now going to the coding part. Let's come back to our Xcode view controller, Xcode project, and we'll create a new view controller. Facebook, right click on this and select a new file. Cocoa Touch class of type UI table view controller, because our edit VC on the main storyboard is of table view controller type. So here we'll write edit VC next and create to save it. Very good. So I'll remove some of the part of the code which we do not need. View did load, definitely we need that. So yeah, I'll keep it something like this. Okay, as you know, view did load is the first loading function. You know this very well. Okay, so we're coming back to main storyboard. This edit view controller we need to associate with our edit profile view controller scene. Okay, we are going now to the class inspector. Here we have a home view controller from the previous because it's copy pasted, so we will delete this and we'll write there edit VC. Once you click on this, it must take you. Okay, so select your edit profile. When you delete this, it shows you UI table view. So edit view controller, edit VC is of type UI table view. Okay, so what I will do is I will start from the simple actions, which is cancel and buy. Okay, so first select your cancel call assistant editor. Here, make sure that you have selected edit VC. I'll just scroll it down, hold Ctrl left mouse click, drag it right after view did load, make it of type action, cancel button underscore clicked. And this function executed when cancel button has been clicked. Okay, and once it clicked, we want to dismiss the view controller, so we simply write dismiss animated true completion handler null. Okay, very good. So another of our basic action will be to click on the add buyer and to be redirected to the add buyer page. So select your add buyer button, hold Ctrl left mouse click, drag it here, and select present modally. Very good. So meantime, you can build and run to see how it works. Yeah, so another part will be to program cover picture and a user profile picture. So what we will do is we will create now the outlet connection the same like we have in home view controller. We have a cover image view, Ava image view. Okay, so we select cover, we call assistant editor. Just let me show you in the this way. It's not yet aligned, so we will align it as well. So oops, the button is not shown. Okay, let's do now, guys, alignment as well. Select your cover image view for the alignment, top, left, right, and the same width and same height. Very good. So then the Ava image view, want it to be horizontally centered. Then we want to keep vertical spacing, and we want to keep the same width and height. Good one. Then we're going to the text field. We make top, left, and right. Click Command Z to just bring it back. Then the same we're doing for the last name, top, right only. And again Command Z and hold Ctrl left mouse click, drag it to we'll write equal width, equal height, and here we keep the same height. Good one. Then we're going to the add by button. Let me make it 35. Yeah, and select top, left, bottom, and right, like this. Then we have enter email address. I'll make it centered again. It will be top, left, bottom, and right. And then we have a password. We're making it centered. And the same layout, top, left, bottom, and right. Then we have a birthday. We'll center it again. And we're doing again top, left, bottom, and right. Then we have agenda. Top, left, bottom, and right. Very good. And you can make a font of these text fields custom, which will be additional efforts from your side to keep your branding. Okay, excellent. And one more thing, what we need to do is, okay, now it's aligned. So regarding the number of rows, let's do it like this. Here we go. So this is how it will be looking like. So remove this number of section because it's not going to be reused. So these protocols we're removing. So this is just a rough look of our edit view controller. Okay, very good. So we're talking about the cover image view. Okay, let's now work out with the cover image view. So select your cover image view. We're calling assistant editor. And we're going to automatic, make sure that you're in edit view controller. So hold Control lift mouse, drag it here. This is actually a cover image view. Excellent. Then we have a image view. Hold Control lift mouse, drag it here. Ava image view. Very good. So I'll make a comment here. It's a user interface objects. So then, in order to select the photos, we need to work with the tab gesture recognizer. Okay, so this is a one tab gesture recognizer, and then we have another one which is for Ava. Okay, very, very, very good. And what we need to do is, whenever, as you remember from our home view controller, cover image view tapped, so we have this function, and which sends what is the type which is selected, and it shows the action sheet. Okay, so first we need to declare image view tapped. We need to make this variable here. I'll write here a comment coding objects. We just copy paste it here, and then we are going to cover image view, not cover image view, yeah, we are here. We will just copy this function cover image view tapped, and we'll paste it right after view did load. Then we will copy Ava image view tapped, and we will paste it right after cover image view tapped function. And then we are going to show action sheet. We will copy this full function. That's the one. Copy this and paste it here. And Okay guys, so let me take you step by step. Step number one is to make an outlets for cover image view and Ava image view. Step and create a variable image view tab which will track what exactly has been tapped, cover or user profile picture. This step number one to create this variable. Step number two will be to create this function cover image view tapped and Ava image view tapped. So when cover image view tapped variable shows that cover has been tapped and it shows action sheet. When Ava image view tapped, it shows that Ava has been tapped and it shows an action sheet. And step number three is to put an action sheet function to insert it. Step number four will be to insert the function which shows the picker. That's the one. And step number five will be to include a delegates. So here we write UI image picker controller delegate and UI navigation controller delegate. These two methods. So it was step number four, and step number five will be to track is Ava or is cover, means is Ava has been selected or is cover has been selected. So this two Boolean variables. Okay, very good. And the last step, which is step number 6, will be to insert image picker view did finish picking media info. So select this wall image function from the home view controller, scroll it down right before the cancel button has been clicked and insert it. So the only addition which we need to do is, here we go. Here we'll write this code. Here image will be uploaded to the server. Or here data will be uploaded to the server. And the same we have here for the image view tapped Ava. And here we go. So we can just quickly check it out. So instead of rewriting what we have already learned and what we have already gone through, I see it more practical to copy paste it. In case if you, definitely I would advise you to write it. Okay, let me guide you again after we check this. Yeah, we need to create outlet action connections from the tap gestures to the our edit view controller. Okay, go to main starter board, select your edit view controller. Here, open the left panel, select your first tap gesture recognizer. Make sure that this is cover image. If this is in your case, it's showing Ava image view, so then select the next one. It should be a cover. So once you have selected your tap gesture recognizer, which is in charge of the cover image view, call assistant editor. Then go to automatic. Scroll it up to the cover image view tap function. So from the left panel, hold Ctrl left mouse click, drag it to this function. Means whenever Ava is tapped, it will execute this function. And the same, whenever cover is tapped, it will execute this function. So we're going to the next one, next gesture, which is Ava image view has been tapped. So select your Ava image view. Hold Ctrl left mouse click, drag it to Ava image view tapped function and release. So now it's created a now action connection. And we can now build and run our project. Once it works very well, I'll just guide you through to explain you the logic. Edit view controller, here we go. So we can select any picture to be our cover image view, and we need to select any picture to be our Ava image view. Excellent. And let me guide you through step by step. Step number one, what we're doing in this video, we have done an alignment to let it look perfectly well. So we have done with this, we've finished the alignment. And the second part of this video was to focus on the images, on the appearance of the images and the functionality of the images. Okay, so how we did it. Step number 1, we have created two outlet connections, cover image view, which is responsible for cover, and Ava image view, which is responsible for Ava. Cover image view, whenever we edit this in the code, whenever we code this variable, it will affect our cover image view. Whenever we edit Ava image view, it will affect our Ava image view object. Another part of the step number 1 of creating variables was to create a coding objects. First object was which image view has been tapped, cover or Ava, and other variables was to show is there any picture in the cover image view or is there any picture in the Ava image view. In order to track if there is any image view in the Ava image view, so the delete button will be enabled. So now it's disabled because after deleting the function we cast is Ava as false. Okay, so first step number 1 was to create the variables. Two object variables and two coding variables, which one tracks what exactly has been tapped, Ava imagery or cover imagery, and another two booleans which shows is the image selected into image view or not. Step number 2 was to write two actions. Whenever we select cover image view, this block of code will be executed. Whenever we tap Ava image view or picture cover image view, a relevant block of codes will be executed. So step number 2 was create actions for tap. Whenever we tap a cover image view, we cast this variable image view tapped, this one image view tapped, we write it as a cover. When Ava is tapped, we cast it as Ava. So once we've casted what exactly has been tapped, then we show the action sheet. Step number 3 was to write the function which executes that action sheet. This is the function. What we wrote in this function, first line we create the action sheet as an object, then we create a button which is a camera button, which is camera, which has a default style, and whenever the camera is clicked, it will show picture with camera. Then we have created another button, which is a library. Whenever the photo library is clicked, it will show the picture with the photo library. And then we have created the cancel button. That is the one of type cancel. It always bold. Default button styles are just a regular font size. Then we have created a delete button, which is delete button. If image view, if the image view which is tapped is Ava, then once delete is pressed, it will show a user PNG here, user.png, and it will cast is Ava false, means there is no Ava. Else, if image view tapped was cover, then it will put here home cover.jpg file, and it will cast it is cover false, means there is no cover. Another part of this was to manipulate to show it is it enabled or disabled, and we write here if image view tapped is Ava, means if Ava has been tapped and Ava is not installed, means there is no picture, then delete button disabled. Else it will be enabled. And the same if cover image view has been tapped and there is no cover, means there is no image view here, then disable delete button. And another part of this function was we're adding all these 4 buttons to our action sheet. And the last part of this function is to show the action sheet. So this was step number 3. Step number 4 was to write a function which presents the picker view controller. So this is a function where we have reference variable source, which we can manipulate. It can be a photo library or it can be a camera. That's the one, photo library, or it can be a camera. So here we just create a picker controller as an object, and we source type, we just make it a reference variable source type, which can be manipulated, and we'll present this. And step number 5 was to write a function which is executed once the image has been selected. So it's a native method, as you know from the previous lectures. So here we access the image which has been selected, and here we write if image view tabbed was cover image view, then assign the image to the cover image view, and then later on we will upload it to the server. If image tabbed was Ava image view, assign the image to the Ava image view and upload it, everything to the server. Here, that one actually we can delete because everything will be uploaded once we save it. Like this. And when we dismiss this view controller, let's dismiss means let's select some. So once we have selected, then this method is executed. When it's about to be dismissed, it will cast if Ava image view has been tapped and the cover is selected. Then the cover we will cast it as true, means there is some image view in the cover, some image in the cover image view. And the same we're doing for the Ava. So this is the 5th step. And the last moment was to include 2 libraries, UR image picker controller, which allows us to call this picker controller, and another one was navigation controller, which allow us to navigate to this image picker view. So this is what we have done. This is what we exactly have copy paste. And another part which we need to do is to take from the home view controller is to configure Ava image view. So what I will do is I will simply just copy this, and we can paste it right after the view did load. Here we go. View did load. We paste it here, and we will call this function call functions, and here we'll call configure Ava image view. So we already have this function written. Here we go. So now it's working perfectly fine. So another part which we will take is to here to show the first name and the last name. Okay, so we have here a function which is a load user, which we can again use it to just, or what we can do just to keep diversity. Here in view did load we can write assign full name to the text fields. So as you remember, the function which we wrote here, it was load full name. So we can run this function load full name, which is I'll write here helper open and close round bracket, means we're calling the helper class dot load full name. So here we need a string for first name and last name, and then we need to show where exactly we want to show this. But this one is showed in the label. Let's write it instead of that one. We'll just write it manually. Okay, so as you remember, we need to access the first name from our global variable guard. Let first name equals to current user question mark open and close square brackets, and in quotation marks let's write first name. This is how we write it, as you remember. Then guys, we can just simply copy this load user object. So we can simply just copy this to make it easier, rather than we will retype it. So right after view did load, we'll post load user function, and we will call this load user. We can now try building and running this. So here the minor adjustments which we need to do is we need here to do three adjustments. Adjustment number one is to remove this buyer because we don't need to write a buyer here. Then adjustment number two is here we will simply write everything in the text fields, and adjustment number three is to remove this part. Okay, we'll now make an outlet connections from the first name and last name text fields. We're going to make storyboard. Select your first name, call assistant editor. And here we'll make an outlet connection. Hold Ctrl left mouse, click drag here, and this will be first name text field. Then we've got the last name. Hold Ctrl left mouse, click drag it like after first name text field. We'll write here last name text field. Excellent. So we're going now to edit view controller, and here we write here we write first name text field dot text equals first name, and the same last name text field dot text equals last name, the variable which we have accessed here, and we want to cast it as string. Here we go, Joseph James. Very good. So the only thing is we will just in quotation marks we'll just make a reference to our first name, and we'll write here. We'll write it. We'll just make in the quotation marks, we'll just make a reference to this. I'll put it in the string, I'll cast it as string. It doesn't want to be casted as string. Here we go. Yeah. What we can do is we'll cast it as string, and here we'll put it capitalized. We'll do like this, the most easiest method. That one is the first name, we'll cast it as string and we'll capitalize it. So we'll now build and run this, and it will be shown very well. So Joseph James, so we can just click here and we can edit this, which is awesome. Okay, so another thing also which we need to focus on is to show here the load from the global variable some values, and to show in this object. And also I'd like now to focus on the add buyer. We have already done this in login view controller, which is adjust register button. So let's find a function which is configure. Just I'll search for configure register button. That's the one, this register configure button. I'll just copy this function. And this is from login view controller. We're copying the register button function. That's the one. I'll copy this and I'm going back to edit view controller. Right after configure Ava image view, I'll paste this. Appearance of add buyer button. I'll just update here. And another step will be to make an outlet connection of add buyer. Okay, select your add by button, call assistant editor, and we'll make an outlet connection. Here, let's select automatic, add by button. Very good. So here we go. We'll just replace register button with the add by button. And we're replacing register button with the add by button. So we can now build and run this. And we're going to edit. Yeah, we need to run this function here. Configure register. I want to rename it. We're going here, register button. Configure add by a button. So this is how we will call it. And here we're renaming it. Configure add by a button. We're going to edit vController and excellent. If you remember one of the important moment, we need to call this button, we need to call this function not in the view did load. It must be called in the function which called did layout subviews, because the did layout subviews method is loaded once the all alignment and layout has been finished. Okay, so here after view did load, we'll write new protocol view did layout subviews. Then we'll write in this super view did layout subviews and configure add by a button, and I'll just put it here. This one executed after laying out the view controller. Call functions. Okay, now everything will be working fine. The only thing we will have to adjust the appearance of the button. Very good. So as you know from the original app of the Facebook, this is of gray color. Okay, we're now going to add bio to main storyboard, and let's select the add bio button, and text color we can select a light gray color. And the same we're doing in the edit view controller for the border. So configure add by a button. Here the color, that's the one. We'll write UI color, light gray color, and we convert it to CG color. Okay, excellent. Let's now build and run this. Very good. So this is how it looks in official a Facebook app. So here we can add by what's new, tralala, etc. And the last moment will be definitely to add here first to disable this selection of the cells, and instead of that to load here everything which we received from the server. Okay, it's very easy to do. First, let's disable selection. Select your edit view controller, select table view, here selection right, keep no selection. Okay, now let's make an outlet connections for all of these text fields. So this one is email text field. Hold Control left mouse drag, email text field. Then we have a password text field. Hold Control left mouse drag, password text field. Then we have a birthday text field, birthday text field. And the last one we have a gender text field, gender text field. Very good. So we're coming back to our edit view controller. While loading the user, we're going to the function to load the user. That is the one. I'll just separate it with a break so it can be more readable. After loading first name and last name, I'll load an email address. I'll write let email equals to current user question marks in the square brackets, and then in quotation marks we access email, and again comma. Then for the password, we will just keep we cannot keep their password from the server. So then we have an birthday, let birthday equals to current user question mark in the round brackets, and then in quotation marks we access birthday key, then comma, then we have a gender. We'll write let gender equals to current user question marks, then in the square brackets and then in quotation marks we access gender, and then we put a comma. Don't forget to put a comma. Then we assign all of these values to our text fields. So we have an email text field dot text will be equal to email. Then we have a birthday text field dot text will be equals to birthday. Then we have a gender text field dot text will be equals to gender. Okay, we need to cast it as string. What you can do, you can just simply put it into quotation marks and make a reference to these values like this. So this is how we'll make a reference to these variables. So we'll now build and run it. We're going to edit view controller, and we've got everything here. Very good. So one more thing, instead of the password, what we will do is we'll show there some password, not a password, some dummy values. So in our case, I'll keep 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like this. Okay, like this. So whenever we'll try to write a password, it will just start to writing a new password. So very good. So we will have to adjust the appearance of our date, which we have done this already. If you remember, we have been working with our appearance of our dates. So in the next videos we will work with the appearance of the dates, and we will work out the gender. So you see here 1, which means for male. Okay, so we are loading now everything from the server. The next step will be to let it appear in the proper way. So well done guys, good job. Let's move further.